after my business sank. She returned after a year with bruises. Hello everyone, I am 36 years old. My ex-wife Vera is 29 years old. Vera and I were married for only 3 years before everything went downhill for me. She showed her true colors. Vera and I dated for a year and 4 months before we got married. Soon after we started dating, I told Vera that I aspired to start my own business. So I worked day and night. I had a part-time job on top of my regular job. I used the money from my day job to pay for rent, bills, and food, while the money from my part-time job went into funding my business. Vera worked as a sales manager at a retail store, and she seemed very supportive of my business idea at the beginning of our relationship. She even pushed me to work harder to expand the business. However, after we got married, she didn't seem very interested in the business anymore. She even jokingly told me to focus on other important things besides the business. My business wasn't going as well as I had hoped, but I stayed determined because it was my dream, and I knew it was possible to make a profit. Fast forward to the first year of our marriage. After several meetings and much persuasion, I had a great opportunity when one of my rich friends offered to invest in my business. Vera and I were over the moon celebrating a victory. She pretended to believe in me and constantly pushed me to do things. My business was a small logistics company that I had been nurturing for a long time, believing that with proper management, it could become one of the biggest companies in our state. With the funding, I bought more delivery bikes and truck to transport goods. With the additional bikes, the business took off and our income increased. I also invested some money in marketing and signage, which paid off. However, I noticed a significant change in Vera's mentality shortly after receiving the investment. We started arguing almost every day, and the reason was always money. She argued because she wanted me to give her money to go shopping, move to a bigger apartment, and go on a week-long vacation, all of which were expenses that should have been invested in my business when I opposed the idea. She got angry. I understood her desire for shopping, and I even promised to give her money to buy a beautiful Chanel bag that she had been admiring. But she wanted more. She claimed that she was happy about the investment because she believed it would benefit her. I was taken aback by her demands because I knew how much I had struggled with my business and how hard I had worked. I prayed for a financial miracle every day, and when it finally came, I didn't expect her to ask for so much. At that moment, even if I took her shopping, moved to a bigger apartment, or went on vacation, it would have been with the profits my business would have generated in the long run, not with the money I needed to invest and grow it. I told her that the money was not for a personal use, that it needed to be returned with interest to my friend who had invested it. But everything I said fell on deaf ears, and she kept pestering me about it. She started calling me selfish and accused me of trying to keep all the money my friend had given me for myself, even though I hadn't worked to earn it. When her words didn't affect me as she expected, she switched to the emotional aspect and would try all night. Throughout the week, we argued and argued when I couldn't take it anymore. I agreed to take her shopping with a budget to bring peace. Then I invested the rest of the money in my business. I did it for Vera because I loved her, even when she showed no sympathy. As I mentioned before, with the addition of the bikes and delivery trucks, the business skyrocketed, and we were able to expand to more areas than before. It even got to the point where I had to quit my main job and side jobs to focus more on the business. I did everything I could to take it to the next level, and the money I made monthly was enough to pay my part of the rent and bills and use the remaining to pay off the loans. About 2 months after my business started improving, Vera's daughter from a previous relationship claimed that since I was doing well financially, I should take care of the house like a man. She was tired of splitting everything 50-50, even though I made more than twice her monthly salary. At first, when she mentioned it, I thought it was a joke, but when she refused to contribute to rent and other bills, I realized she wasn't joking. I tried to explain to her that it wasn't wise for me to handle the entire financial burden of the house because it would set me back instead of moving forward. But she refused to listen. She also had to pay back the investment money to my friend at a disgusting interest rate. She mentioned that she had friends whose husbands didn't earn as much as me, but still took care of their wives, children, and families independently. So why couldn't I do the same? This question was a slap in my face, but I didn't let it affect me. At that point, I was tired of constantly arguing with Vera. It was almost as if she had changed as soon as the money came in, and my business wasn't thriving as I had hoped. I was the one paying all the bills at home, the rent, buying groceries, and paying for gas every month. I would be lying if I said doing all that didn't affect my business, because it did. Nowadays, we act as if the business is solely mine. My main reason for starting a business was that I didn't want to be stuck in a 9-to-5 job with overtime for the rest of my life, and I didn't want that for Vera either. Everything I did was to have a good life and possibly give our children the kind of life we never had. But the more I raised Vera's demands and expectations, the more I felt like she wasn't interested in my work at all. I married her because I thought she had her mind focused, and we agreed that we would love to have multiple businesses together across the country and even around the world. But when it came to growing, the only business we had together, she became a completely different person. She stopped contributing to the house and preferred to spend the money she earned on clothes, shoes, wigs, and anything she wanted while I took care of the bills for another year and a few months. I tolerated it and tried to grow my business. Sometimes she would take my credit card to go shopping with her friends. So you can imagine that when I was going through tough financial times, my business would take one step forward and 3 steps back. Unfortunately, I couldn't continue like that because I had to pay back the money with interest and I found myself in serious debt problems. I had to step back for a while. It got so bad that I had to sell all my bikes, my personal car, and family heirlooms to pay off the debt. In the end, I was left with nothing, not even a cent. When this happened, I went through hell at various hands. She started saying terrible things to me, saying something like, "We would have used the funding money to live a good life, but because of my greed, I lost everything." As if her harsh words and verbal lashings weren't enough, she completely changed. We used to split household chores, but when my business went under, she told me to do my own laundry, cook my own meals, and clean the house. Since I was at home, apparently not working, she would literally seize every opportunity to rub it in my face how she was making money while I was unemployed. She aggressively pursued jobs to cover her expenses. After going through such a big loss, the business was the least of my concerns. Survival was my priority. It was during this time that I realized she was always smiling and typing on her phone. Then she would come home with expensive gifts like bags, pots, shoes, and clothes. I knew she couldn't afford them because her salary alone couldn't buy her branded bag, and she would have had to save her salary for at least 4 months to get one of those high-end items. As soon as I realized she was coming home late every week with expensive things, I questioned her about it, and every time I did, she would turn it around on me and remind me that I had no right to question her because I didn't have a job and could never buy her those things. With her new attitude, I knew our intimacy would suffer. And that's exactly what happened. She stopped sleeping in our bedroom because she knew I would try to touch her. So just like that, our marriage became a nightmare in the blink of an eye. I think it was about 2 or 3 months after she started coming home with expensive things that I found it unbearable to tolerate her tantrums. But at that time, my prayer was to find a job as soon as possible. However, one night she came home and told me she wanted a divorce. She said she couldn't stand being married to me anymore, and revealed that she had married me because she thought I had a promising future, which apparently didn't impress her. I didn't try to beg or convince her in a way I knew it was coming. I was already tired of everything, and I believed that divorcing was the right thing to do. Even though I loved her, I couldn't live or stay married to a woman who mocked me, insulted me, and made me feel useless at every opportunity she had. So I signed the papers. She moved out before our divorce was finalized. Shortly after our divorce, I was at home thinking about my life when she messaged me on Facebook. When I opened it, it was a photo of her in a bikini on a yacht with my rich friend. It was the same rich friend who had financed my business, and I couldn't feel more betrayed at that moment. It all made sense. The expensive gifts, the perfumes coming home late with new items. I couldn't even cry because what she had done already surpassed the phase of expressing my anguish in tears. I even felt sorry for her because my rich friend had a history of using women and had been divorced 4 times. In response to the photo she sent to taunt me, I replied, "Enjoy it while it lasts." And then I blocked her. Moving on was difficult, especially without a job and without someone supporting me financially and emotionally. It was tough, and there were days when I thought about ending things because I was mentally in a very dark place. I even moved in with my younger brother because I couldn't afford rent or my basic needs. 4 months after Vera left me, I got a job. The salary wasn't as good as my previous job, but it was a motivating start for me. I worked very hard, did overtime, and was able to split the rent and bills with my brother for 2 months before I got my own place. My new workplace was where I met Crystal, a 47-year-old woman who treated me with a special affection. She was obviously older, and at first I didn't understand why she brought me lunch, asked if we could go out together, and so on. When I asked her about it, she said that I reminded her of her late brother who passed away when he was younger, and for some strange reason, I looked and walked like him. Crystal and I became very good friends, and when I told her about my past with a failed business, she promised to help me. In the short time we had known each other, I had already fallen in love with her. She cared about me and treated me with so much love. I hadn't even received the kind of care and love in the 3 years when I was married to Vera with Crystal. I felt spoiled, and I couldn't help but fall in love with her. Surprisingly, the help came. Crystal kept her promise and introduced me to someone who could help me financially. The person she introduced me to owed Crystal a favor in return for her help. Crystal also gave me a significant amount of money to invest in my business with the agreement that I would pay her back monthly. She also shared ideas with me on how to boost and expand my business, offering something that my competitor editors didn't. I know it all sounds too good to be true, and that's exactly how I felt. Within the span of 9 months after Vera and I divorced, things took a turn for the better. If someone had told me that I would recover so quickly, I wouldn't have believed it. The only exception was that Crystal didn't see me the same way I saw her. She saw me as her beloved brother, whom she missed dearly. She promised to continue supporting me as long as I held up my end of the deal. Crystal was almost 11 years older than me, and I didn't mind when she told me that we couldn't be together because she saw me as her brother. It hurt a little, but I got over it and decided to focus on growing my business. Although it felt like starting from scratch since I had sold my bikes, I didn't mind having a logistics business was something I genuinely wanted and was passionate about. I was determined to make it work with the funds provided. My business came back to life, and I felt truly happy. Just 3 weeks ago, almost a year after Vera and I divorced, I received a call from her. She said she wanted to see me. I thought she must have heard about my new success and wanted to see things for herself, so I agreed to meet her. I invited her to the headquarters of my company so she could see things for herself. I did it to rub it in her face. When she came, she looked so thin and didn't give the aura of a rich man's wife. Deep down, I wanted to ask her if everything was okay, but I didn't. My only purpose was to show her that I was doing well, even better than last time. The problem is that Vera called me again 2 days ago and asked if she could get back together with me because she was going through a lot with her new husband. I am very sorry, but your dream business has gone down the drain from the lack of respect to complete selfishness. It's disgusting to think that she only pretended to support you and your dreams, and it's quite shocking that your rich friend decided to indulge her and even sent you the photo to rub it in your face. What she's doing is despicable. She's just a lazy good-for-nothing, hungry for anything shiny and new. As for your business, I'm glad you have someone in your life who wholeheartedly believes in you. Keep focusing on your business. Now it's your baby. Don't let anything coming your way and try not to get distracted. I met with her a couple of months ago. This time her face was full of bruises. She told me she regretted divorcing me because even when I had little money, I treated her well and spoiled her like a queen. She regretted leaving me. She said she was suffering physically, mentally, and emotionally at the hands of her new husband. I feel very sorry for her as her husband is a terrible person who physically abuses her and she can't even report him because he is disgustingly wealthy. She also admitted that she had no job, and he didn't let her work because he provided her with everything she wanted and that suffocated her. She bitterly complained about his infidelity and how he brought different girls home every day, not caring about her presence. From everything she said, I don't know how much of it is true. All I can confirm is what I saw on her body. She looked physically, mentally, and emotionally unwell. It was evident that she had suffered abuse since the first month of her marriage, but she never called or complained about it until my business came back to life. Why? I shouldn't get back with her. And when I saw her begging, I said to her to give me time to think about it. I genuinely look forward to getting my revenge and making her feel the same pain I feel. It's quite embarrassing that she tried to get back with me after treating me as if I were worthless. Anyway, it's been a month now, and I can't begin to list all the things she did for me to get back together with her. She even shared explicit photos of my request, and we were constantly chatting ever since I told her that I would think about it. It was almost as if she was handed to me on a silver platter. All I needed was a month. She made it very easy for me. During that month, she did everything I asked her to do. Even getting shocked and cheated, I planted a kiss on her cheek, and she couldn't stop smiling and greeting me as she headed towards her car that day. I deliberately asked her to send me the explicit photos because I knew that after everything, desperate times call for desperate measures. So, after I had enough of her explicit photos, I compiled all our chats about how she would divorce her husband and all the horrible things he had done. I unblocked my friend and sent him all the photos and screenshots of our conversations. Then I left him a message saying, "Helping you dodged a bullet, bro." I waited for him to see the message, and as soon as he did, I received a call from Vera. She was crying and breathing heavily over the phone when she finally could speak. She told me that her husband had kicked her out of the house and confiscated everything he bought for her because, according to his words, it had been years and nothing, and she had to leave with nothing. After crying and insisting, she told me that she was coming to my house so we could officially be together as we had planned. I took that opportunity to tell her that I was the one who sent everything to her husband and that we could never be together because she didn't deserve any love. When she cried, even more and pleaded with me not to do this to her, I had already done it. I warned her not to show up at my house or business, or I would have her arrested. After I hung up, she removed her contact, and I can only imagine the anguish she must be going through right now. It was audacious of her to think she could have her cake and eat it too. Thank you for listening to my story. If you were in a similar situation, how would you handle it?